All right, Alan, it's time for us to discuss the first 3 episodes of X-Men 97. They have dropped. It's on Disney Plus. This is the sequel, directly, not 100% directly, but it's the end of the final season of the X-Men cartoon show. Professor X says, quote, died, not really, but we won't get into that. And this carries on the story from those original X-Men cartoons. I say this as I'm wearing Scott Summers glasses. These are Oakley reproductions, which were put out in 2000 when the first X-Men movie hit. Was it 2000? Right around there.
Around there, yeah.
Around there. James Marsden wore these. This is the most I have ever spent on a pair of sunglasses. $300 for a pair of Oakleys. In that day and age. I still have them. I've never spent more on a pair of sunglasses than that. But I was looking forward to this, and I don't even know how to say this. And obviously we're going to stick spoiler free. We will watch all the episodes and do a final roundup once Alan and I have seen all of them. It's fine. It's good. Let's start with things I like and things I didn't like. And then Alan, I want to hear from you.
Okay.
So things I liked. It was sort of obviously the older episodes are in standard def. These are in like full, HD. They look really great. They are in the style of the old 90s show. So it's like you could, watch those and then watch the newer ones. So it matches. Secondly, the music, they beefed up the theme at the beginning, which I think is iconic, right? When you just hear those few notes, you know what it is. The characters seem to be pretty much matching, the old school show. And it seems in tone like a 90s cartoon show. I was, and a lot of the things that happen are obviously ripped out of the comics. I like some things, and then there are like little things that are like nitpicks, which are like, they had to do that, or they had to do this. There's an implication in the first episode that one of the characters, who is like, it's like an illegal immigrant, right? There's a little bit of that in there. And there are these extremists that are trying to get the illegal immigrant, which is they gloss over. This is the thing. All these little nitpick things that are kind of annoying, they just gloss over them quickly. So you're like, wait, what? And if you don't blink, there are 2 women kissing in a club. There's just a lot of little things like that. And then Magneto, I think this is in the 3rd episode, gives a speech to the UN where he says, you should be able to love whoever you want to love, right? It's all this so it's like any of the so-called messaging that you would see, it goes by so quick. You're like, wait, what? So, but the one thing is it doesn't push it hard. It's there. There's not very much of it. So it's okay. I'm not going to, a lot of people are going to review this and say it's a complete disaster. It's not a complete disaster. I'll just say it's not a complete disaster, but it's not the greatest thing ever. I will say this. It'll probably get you, if you're a fan of the show when it first came out and you see this, you're going to get, feel like you might get taken in.
Yeah.
You'll get the feels. Alan,
were you a fan of this show when it first came out?
No, because I wasn't the right age. Yeah, I was doing adult things, and I would watch it, and I'm like, oh, that's fine, because because why? I love the X-Men characters. Jean Grey. I like the old school, right? I love the characters. I care about what happens to those characters. And there are so many great X-Men characters. You could rebuild the Marvel Cinematic Universe just with X-Men movies. Just make X-Men movies. You can have these characters go off and do an adventure. You have Gambit do his own movie. You could that's how you could rebuild Marvel with Fantastic Four and X-Men. There are enough characters and story. And just do that rather than going with your B characters, and no disrespect to Eternals or other characters from Marvel, but I just think that X-Men is just really just resonates with everyone. Unfortunately, certain communities say that, oh, this is about this. No, it's not. It's about anyone that feels like a misfit.
Yeah.
Anyone that feels out of place, everyone has that feeling. That is what it means to be human. It's a part of humanity. You feel out of place. You don't feel like you belong. That is everyone. And that's why the appeal of X-Men is so universal. Alan, I'm sorry.
All
I
right.
really want to hear what you think. Because
Yeah.
you know the comics, you know the X-Men
I do
comics.
know the comic. I mean, my
I know the early
entry,
comics, not the newer ones.
right? My entry into comic books was X-Men. It was the John Byrne. It was the Hellfire Club. It was right before the death of Phoenix. That's when I got into comic books. Look, I'll be the heretic here. I was never a fan of the X-Men television series. I saw a couple episodes. I'll be open and honest. I just don't like the animation style, and this is a continuation of that. When you compare it to Batman the animated series, Batman is so much better in terms of animation. And if I wasn't such a Marvel guy, I might have liked the Batman animated series a lot. I just don't like the style. I'll say this from that era to now, I've never been impressed with Marvel animation. And so I kind of come to this with just not. I was just never excited about the series when I saw it. A lot of it, me watching it was okay. It's not bad, and the little things they sneak in here and there, you can just kind of expect it. I was not blown away. I was as blown away with this series as I was with the original, which was not very blown away. And I'll give you, and story wise, I will tell you that because I grew up with the John Byrne, Dave Cockrum X-Men, I've always found the series itself to be kind of toned down kids' versions of those very adult stories. And I certainly got that with this one. The first one was I forget Sunspot's origin. Sunspot joining the team. Then it was Magneto taking over the X-Men in place of Charles Xavier. And then you have the third episode, which no one has seen yet except us, but it's the Sinister, Mr. Sinister. Is that the guy's name?
Yes.
Yeah. And it has to do with Jean's pregnancy. It was okay. But it was always, it all felt like kids' retellings of very dark stories. And so, the best I could say is what it felt like ultimately this series was an attempt to recreate the nostalgia of the original series. And when you do that, when you have to recreate something you were never a part of, it never felt authentic, or felt less than authentic. Like they were just trying to be nostalgic for nostalgia's sake. And I would much rather have them told, use better animation, use better technology, and be able to push stories a little bit further than they did here. And so, I don't dislike this show for the obvious reasons. I'm just not a big fan of this because of what it is and the style of the animation. So I'm just not blown away. And and I think I only saw this because we were talking about it today and we got early access. So that's my feeling.
Look, I'll just say this. I don't know that this is necessarily made for us, right? Like
and I don't think it was made for us back then either. We were too old.
Let's actually be really honest. The show was made to sell toys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and shout out to Toy Biz for that. They did a great job on those toys back then. It's for kids. And I actually think they deserve a little bit of credit for taking some stories that could be kind of for adults, and they sort of did the kids versions of them. I feel like when you look at like your life as a fan, right? There are things that are like, they make stuff that's like for kids, and then they move up, and you kind of move up the scale to the things that are more adult. And those kids will be interested at some point when they're ready to read the original stories as they are in the comics. And I think that that's fine. I applaud that.
Yeah. I mean, were the Morlocks a part of the original series? Because they kind of make an appearance in this series. But I remember the Morlock story. I love the Morlock story, especially the demise of Angel. But they're not going to tell that story in this series.
Right.
But there was that attempt, and again, you just said it. It wasn't made for us, and when it came out in the '90s, it was still not made for us at that time. We're
Right.
too old. We're too damn old.
No, but that's okay. Like look, it's weird because there are lapses in my pop culture knowledge,
Mhm.
and usually it comes from life stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
Work stuff is crazy, or when I was raising my kids when they were a certain age, your attention is put elsewhere. Your attention is elsewhere, specifically because life things happen. I think it's fine. It's not a disaster. It's just okay.
Mhm.
But if you were a fan of the old show, you're an actual fan of the old show, I think you're going to find a lot to like. At the very least, the opening title sequence with the music is it's it's pretty cool to see it like with a budget and the music not done like kind of cheesy sounding. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. I do appreciate though that they made Jubilee look more Asian in this. So
Yeah,
for the
no,
longest
that's true.
time, I never knew she was Asian.
Yeah, and for those putting out the criticism that the show isn't the sort of sexy bodies that were in the show, wait until you get to episode 3. There is something that happens in episode 3 of X-Men 97, and they know how to do sexy women.
Yeah.
I think
you mean Jean Grey's psychic boob job? Is that the one you're talking
yeah, that's pretty much what I'm talking about. Oh, let's lean into that.
about?
Don't tell me you weren't looking at her Sweeney's.
Okay, from Stephen Lorney, it's pulling the nostalgia strings hard. Forget about it, haha. To me, that's the problem I have with this, is that again, Disney. No one, not just Disney, but no, they always have to rehash old things. I kind of likened it to, especially with the Acolyte. It's the idea that Disney has to come into your bedroom and tell you you've been playing with your toys wrong. They're taking everything we loved in the past and said, nope, what you were playing with was completely wrong, and here's the way you should be playing with your toys. And that's the most insulting thing about all this. That's my biggest problem with all these redos, is that they feel like they're improving it when all they're doing is changing it for the sake of the message.